It started with notes, neat, typed, and passive-aggressive, the kind that always ended with per HOA regulation. Remove unregistered vehicle from driveway within 48 hours or face penalties. They meant my car, a plain black one that rarely moved. To them, it was an eyesore. To me, it was something else entirely. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. For months, I let their warnings pile up. I couldn't exactly tell the nosy neighbors that I was an undercover agent with the FBI task force, working a long-term operation. My car wasn't a prop, it was part of an active federal case. Keeping it there was necessary. But people like Karen, the self-appointed HOA president, don't take kindly to things they can't control. She'd made it her personal mission to restore order to the neighborhood. And apparently, my car was her latest target. It started with photos. I'd catch her crouched behind her shrubs, snapping pictures of my plates, my house, even my front door. She'd send complaint letters, post about neighborhood safety in the HOA group chat, and stand at meetings accusing me of violating community standards. I ignored her until the morning she went too far. Just before sunrise, I heard the rumble of a diesel engine outside my house, the kind of sound you don't expect to hear at dawn unless someone's up to no good. I moved to the window and pulled the blinds just enough to peek through. A tow truck sat in my driveway. Behind it stood Karen, arms folded like she owned the place, directing Karens. 4 men in black tactical vests. The words HOA cops were printed across their backs. Bold white letters, but no department insignia. One of them had a shaved head and a pistol on his hip. The other carried a clipboard and a grin that said he thought this was funny. Karen pointed toward my car. "That one," she barked. "Tag it and take it." That's when I stepped outside. "Morning," I said, keeping my tone calm. "You want to tell me what you think you're doing?" Karen turned, voice sharp and smug. "This vehicle violates HOA regulations. It's unregistered and suspicious. We're seizing it until further notice." "Seizing?" I repeated. "You have legal authority for that?" The taller officer stepped forward and flashed a badge, shiny, crooked, and fake. The number didn't even line up with the emblem. "HOA Enforcement Division," he said, like he'd practiced it in front of a mirror. I looked at the badge, then at his vest. Wrong straps, wrong setup. The holster was real, but his stance was all wrong. "You boys really want to play cop today?" I asked quietly. He smirked. "You gonna stop us?" That was his mistake. I took a step closer, eyes locked on his. "You're impersonating federal officers. That's a felony." He blinked, a flicker of fear breaking through the fake confidence. "You might want to drop the act," I said, hands slowly reaching inside my jacket, "because in about 5 seconds, you're going to find out what a real badge looks like." The taller fake cop squared up, chin high, eyes locked on mine like he thought intimidation still worked. "You don't want to do this," he said, reaching for the pistol on his belt. "Neither do you," I replied. Before he could clear the holster, I moved, one step forward, arm sweeping his wrist aside. The barrel pointed harmlessly toward the ground. My knee met his gut before he knew what hit him. He folded, gasping. The other 3 froze. The tow driver muttered, "Hey man, I just got paid to move the car." "Unhook it," I said, never breaking eye contact with the one wheezing in front of me. "Now." He scrambled to obey. Karen stomped forward, waving her clipboard like it gave her power. "You're assaulting an HOA officer," she shouted, voice sharp enough to cut gravel. "I'm calling the police." "Please do," I said. "Make sure you tell them your enforcers here are carrying loaded weapons and fake badges." That shut her up for a second. The second officer, shorter, jittery, probably the follower, tried to play tough. "We're just doing community enforcement," he said, pulling a laminated card from his vest. "Per Section 12B, we're authorized." I snatched the card from his hand. The seal was crooked, the font was wrong, and the badge number, non-existent. A 5-digit number starting with 0, the kind used on novelty props you could buy online. "Authorized by who?" I asked. "You?" He swallowed hard. "Thought so." The taller one groaned and tried to get up. "You can't touch us, man. We're just doing our job." "Your job," I said, stepping closer, "is a felony." Their faces twisted in confusion. I could almost see the gears turning as I went on. "Impersonating a federal officer. Up to 3 years in prison. Add in attempted grand theft auto and criminal trespass. You're looking at 5 minimum." Karen's voice cracked. "That's ridiculous. We were just enforcing community safety." I turned toward her slowly. "Then why do your officers have loaded sidearms and fake IDs?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The shorter one panicked first. He raised his hands halfway. "Look, we didn't know, okay? She said it was authorized. She said the car was abandoned." Karen's eyes went wide. "I never said." "Save it," I interrupted. "You're all done here." I reached inside my jacket and pulled out my real credentials. Black leather, gold seal, crisp lettering. The sunlight caught the edge just enough for everyone to see the words Federal Bureau of Investigation. Silence. Even the tow truck's engine seemed to stop humming. Karen stumbled back a step, color draining from her face. "You're FBI?" I held her stare. Task force, and you just interfered with a federal operation. The taller fake cop went pale. Oh, hell. I stepped forward, badge in one hand, the other gesturing to the group. On the ground. Now. They didn't move fast enough, so I helped them. A quick twist, a shove, and both HOA cops were face down on the gravel, wrists zip-tied with the nylon cuffs I carried everywhere. The tow driver was next, unarmed but complicit. Karen stood frozen, shaking, clipboard hanging uselessly at her side. You should call the real police, I told her. And while you're at it, tell them to bring federal liaisons. They'll want to hear this one in person. The radio on my belt crackled to life, backup confirming en route. I glanced at the detained men, then back at Karen. Congratulations, I said evenly. You just turned a parking complaint into a federal crime scene. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe, because the story is only going to get better. Karen didn't blink. She just stood there, frozen in her perfect suburban armor, clipboard trembling in her hand like it could somehow shield her from the reality unraveling around her. My backup arrived fast. 2 Bureau SUVs rolled up the street, tires crunching on gravel. The neighborhood had already begun to wake. Blinds shifting, cameras peeking through curtains, phones recording. The HOA loved attention, just not this kind. The agents stepped out, Rodriguez and Myers, both task force guys I'd served with before going undercover. They took one look at the scene and knew exactly what had gone down. Guess the HOA sent their own tactical unit, Myers said dryly, eyeing the fake badges. Yeah, I replied. Problem is, they forgot to clear it with the actual law. Karen finally snapped out of her trance. Wait, this is a misunderstanding, she blurted. We were told he was violating HOA rules, that the vehicle was abandoned. Rodriguez held up one of the fake badges, squinting. These are mass-produced on prop sites. You know it's a felony to impersonate an officer, right? She stammered. I didn't know. They said they were part of community enforcement. I turned toward her, calm but cold. You hired armed men without verifying who they were. You watched them carry weapons and try to seize federal property. You don't get to not know. The taller fake cop, still zip-tied on the ground, muttered, We didn't mean no harm, man. We were just doing what she paid us to do. Karen's head snapped toward him. That's a lie, Funny, Myers said, flipping open his notepad. Because that sounds like conspiracy and solicitation to impersonate law enforcement. Both carry prison time. Karen's knees buckled slightly. You can't charge me. I'm the HOA president. Not anymore, I said. You're just another suspect. The real police showed up 10 minutes later, flashing lights bouncing off the perfect row of identical mailboxes. They took custody of the fake HOA cops first, both charged with impersonation, unlawful possession of weapons, and attempted theft of federal property. Then they turned to Karen. She tried to play the victim, crying, saying she was misled, even pointing at me like I'd tricked her. But when the officers reviewed the footage from my driveway cameras, the audio of her ordering them to seize the vehicle, the last bit of her defense fell apart. The arrest was quiet. No one clapped, no one cheered, just the sound of handcuffs locking shut and the tow truck idling as evidence. Weeks later, I heard the outcome. Karen was charged with criminal conspiracy, solicitation, and interference with a federal investigation. She got 3 years in jail, a $25,000 fine, and a permanent ban from the HOA board. The fake cops weren't as lucky. Both served time, 5 years each for impersonating federal officers. The HOA tried to distance themselves, calling her actions rogue, but the damage was done. Membership dropped. Neighbors whispered. No one wanted to be associated with her name again. As for me, my undercover operation continued. Quietly, efficiently. My car stayed right where it was, this time with a federal tag visible on the dash. No one ever mentioned it again. In the end, the HOA didn't seize my car. I seized back my peace. The end.